What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily podcast powered by Anishar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Happy Monday. A great weekend of recruiting. Tough loss for Canes baseball yesterday. A great season. Huge step forward from last year. Falls just really two runs short of a trip to Omaha. So big offseason coming up for the Canes. We'll have all that covered. Did a big wrap-up show with Sebastian Font. We'll do more baseball stuff throughout the week, but it's recruiting time. So we'll get into it. Also, some updates on Carson Beck, hearing some very positive things, talking to people who have been watching him throw lately, potential running back visiting elsewhere. Is he on flip watch? Are we feeling good there? We'll talk about that and plenty more. But first, we got to talk about some folks that are never on flip watch. They'll always be there for you. Anishar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life. Now, introducing the birthday boy, 31 years old today. I remember when he was just a young lad of 17, the one and only Peter Reeves. Peter, hop in. How you doing?
Good morning, D. Good morning. How you doing? Appreciate the birthday shout out.
How you feeling?
Doing great. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty old, man. You know, I gotta say, I got the knee's been acting up. My twice torn ACL knees have been acting up lately. I think I might have a meniscus tear, which sounds about right for someone who just won't slow down on the weekend sports. But we power through, and it hopefully doesn't hurt as much on the birthday.
Well, speaking of the weekend sports, I got to say your girlfriend rolled about 3 strikes in a row when I was there over at Bird Bowl on Friday.
Crazy. She was she was showing me up. That's for sure. I was struggling out there. But yeah, man, just nowhere else I'd rather be than on here with the CanesInSight faithful. And it's getting into the dog days of summer, so to speak, but a lot to talk about today on a Monday show. As I didn't put it in the title there. You mentioned it, Carson Beck. A lot of positive talk about him around the building. Obviously, Coach Feld stuff. Obviously, we'll get into that as well. That was the big news from the weekend. And we're still kind of gathering information on that. But, yeah, a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, man. It's funny. I love the calendar. I know the coaches hate it, so I feel bad for them and their families. But in our seat, I love this new calendar, man, because like right now recruiting is so hot and heavy, and it's going to be really until camp. So you've now basically created a full off season between the portal and recruiting. You got 2 real seasons. We'll see if they do the one portal window. I kind of hope they don't. But they got, portal and recruiting the whole summer and spring, and then of course the season and camp. So love the new calendar. Lots to talk about here. I was out at the Visit Hotel on Sunday interviewing kids, talking to people. So we did a whole show on that. You can see that on the YouTube channel if you haven't. Remember to like and subscribe to this show if you haven't yet. But yeah, a lot to cover, man. So you tell me where you want to start.
Let's start with let's start with Feld, because I think that's just what a lot of people have. And I'll bring up the post here. Obviously, strength and conditioning coordinator Aaron Feld, announced this weekend he would be leaving the program. Someone that Mario brought with him from Oregon, right? From one of the few members of his staff over there that he brought over. So obviously there was that prior relationship there. And look, I think we can all say without a doubt the last few years the body types have looked different. Right now, is that a byproduct of what Mario is recruiting more so than what happens in the weight room? I think that you can always have that sort of debate. I don't think there's any doubt that the body types that Mario's recruited have been much closer to what you want it to be than it previously was, right? But I think there's never a good time to lose a coach, right? This is not great timing because it's the off season, and the strength and conditioning coach is a big part of what happens in the off season. But I don't think this move would have happened if there wasn't something in place, D.
Yeah, and look, I mean, obviously you want strength and conditioning to be up to par with the top programs, right? It's funny when you go on the internet, everybody's a strength and conditioning expert. I've seen it a million times with a million people just kind of like, getting in. It's a very opinionated community. And that's going back all the way since I started posting on the Canes boards, 25 years ago or whatever it was. So it's always been kind of a thing people talk about. So my viewpoint is obviously you need a guy knows what big time strength and conditioning is. You want someone with that kind of experience. You don't want to be so out of the ordinary, I think, and out of the mainstream that you fall behind. I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel either. Although, look, if there's an advantage that can be had, it's worth exploring. When it comes to overall body types, you said, I find recruiting is kind of where it's at, right? I mean, I can give Francis Malinois a Bowflex and the guy still move people off the ball. You think back to the early when kind of Swayze and Moffitt was a great strength and conditioning coach. He went to LSU and they were really doing well after Miami. Of course, Swayze built his reputation really in those early days of the Canes. But, we were recruiting monsters, man. When Butch Davis brings in those body types, they're easy to develop into monsters. So you're seeing the same thing with Mario. So, it's not something I'm losing a lot of sleep over. I trust the staff to make the right decision in terms of who we bring in. I didn't really have much experience with Feld, not someone that I dealt with a ton or really heard about a ton. Nothing really bad or good, quite frankly. So, I don't see this being a monumental shift in what the program's doing. There's a ton of people. It's not like Feld leaves and there's no one in the building working. Or remember when Gus Felder didn't have the card to get in the building? Do you remember that? Because he wasn't certified or something.
Yeah.
So I don't think any of that kind of stuff is going on. Business as usual. We'll see what they do. I've heard
and you remember they lost Eaton the other day to Virginia Tech too. Another one of the strength and conditioning coaches like 2-3 weeks ago left as well. So that there had to be something kind of in the works here. I don't know that this was something that happened overnight.
No, and we heard buzz that some move like this might be happening. Look, I mean, this is not for everybody. Mario works these guys to the bone and he expects a lot. And, I don't, as a fan, that's what you want. That's what Alabama did.
Yeah. I don't know that it's an interesting timing, obviously. Again, like I said, you don't want to lose a strength and conditioning coach. It's not that you don't want to lose him at any point. That's not what I'm saying. It's that like to replace at this time is a little bit trickier, right? Than it would be in the normal cycle of staff overture. But again, I think there has to be something pretty lined up here. Mario's a pretty aggressive and calculated guy at the same time when it comes to staff moves.
Yeah, so I'll dig in and I'll get the latest info. I haven't heard anything, but again, I don't think this is something that I'll throw on all the coaches this weekend. I didn't sense a lot of panic, man. People seem pretty excited about recruiting. People seem pretty excited about Carson Beck, which I'll talk about here in a second. And obviously they're working on to add commits, they're working to keep commits. So a lot going on. You wish Feld the best, but I think that's going to be a spot that Miami will be in a very, very good position to replace with someone competent.
Yep. Johnny asking, do you think Feld's going somewhere else or just semi-retiring? I don't know enough about his situation to know what he would want to do right now, but we'll see, man. We'll see if he joins the staff for this upcoming season or not. I doubt it. Those strength and conditioning coaches are wired pretty, they're ready to go. I don't see him wanting to sit around and really retire. I think, again, I don't want to speak on another man's situation, but just reading his thing there, he said he wanted to be able to be around more than the circumstances allowed pretty much for his family. And again, we've talked about it, but it's a very demanding position to work in a role like that under Coach Cristobal. And that's part of the job. So, yeah.
And again, Mario, and this is just, without speaking on specifics here, because I don't know enough to really say with confidence. I'm not trying to avoid something. I don't want to say something I don't know for sure what's going on. But Mario his coaches extremely hard. he himself is the hardest worker of all the coaches, so on the staff. So it certainly doesn't ask.
So he expects a lot, and that's not let's not say we're insinuating that Coach Feld wasn't doing enough either. I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm not saying that. I mean, like you mentioned, he wants to. It was impacting his family and stuff like that. I mean, when you work these hours, it's tough. I would compare the way Miami's culture is coaching wise. Not saying the same level of success, obviously, because that has not happened yet. So don't read it that way. But, Alabama with Nick Saban, you saw a lot of turnover, right? You saw a lot of guys, not exactly having what they call a work-life balance, right? But of course, they had a lot of success and started at the top with the way Saban worked. So I think Mario very much approaches Miami the same way Saban approached Alabama from that standpoint. It's not supposed to be a place people come when they want to achieve work-life balance, right? Again, right or wrong, that's just how it is with the Miami Hurricanes right now. So as a fan, that's great because I'd love to see Alabama-type results. You've seen progress. Obviously, you're not where they were, but we'll see. But I think that's always something lurking in the background of these coaching moves. I would not expect too many coaches to stick, aside from like a mirror ball, to stick around long-term under Mario just because the pace of work is a lot. And guys potentially get other better opportunities by moving up.
You want them to move on and grow. That's how you continue. Now, replacing them is a very difficult thing, and keeping that standard that's what separated Saban from most. I believe one of the things that did is he was just, it seemed like all these hires, he nailed them. And a lot of them were former big time head coaches, right? So it's kind of was staring him in the face there. It's not like he had to go find some coordinator that was at a smaller program that had success. But to me, that's what you want. You want guys to be able to move on. And yeah, if a Shannon Dawson if this offense has another year anywhere close to what happened last year and their top 10 sort of output, then I'm sure he's going to have some great opportunities to be a head coach. And if he wants it, he'll take it.
Yeah, no, 100%. We'll see how this all shakes out. But if you're a strength and conditioning coach looking for a job, if it's me, I think I'd want to coach, Jackson Cantwell, right? Joel Urban, some of these monsters that Miami's bringing in. That's gonna be a lot easier than working with shrimps, right? Jackson Cantwell, that's the kind of guy you want to put your name on when he's benching, 600 pounds or whatever he ends up at. So that to me is kind of the selling point, along with, of course, the finances and everything else. If you're trying to bring a strength and conditioning coach, you're going to coach elite body types, elite athletes. And I think Miami will have no problem finding a replacement here. Not saying that as criticism of Feld, I just think there's going to be plenty of interest in this job.
Certainly. So you want to get to Carson Beck before we get into recruiting?
Yeah, by the way, like and subscribe to the show. Appreciate you, Michigan Cane. Yeah, if you're looking for something to work when you don't want to work or you want to take your mind a little bit off, like and subscribe, man. We're on every day around this time, plus more, and weekends. So like and subscribe. You'll get all the content that you need for Miami Hurricanes football. So yeah, Pete, let's jump into Javion Mallory here. So running back prospect, 4-star player out of West Boca, committed to Miami since the spring. This is a guy who was extremely productive as a sophomore, got injured seriously, not like a torn ACL, but he got in a car crash. He's had a lot of injuries that he's fully bounced back from. Played through some injuries on the way to West Boca's state title run, really showed a lot of character and grit there. And then, of course, coming back from that car accident. So he was banged up, but I saw him at camp at Under Armour here, and he was outstanding. He actually won the MVP over Derek Cooper. They were both, side by side. And, you looked at it, you said, you want both of those guys, right? Derek Cooper looks like the Predator, runs 4.4 and probably has 4.3 speed in him as he continues to develop. Javion Mallory, smooth, natural back, good size, just knows how to move, can catch the ball. Looks the part of a 3-down back with just rock solid ability. So if you're Miami, you want to land both. I think Miami's trending with Derek Cooper. Obviously, Mallory's committed. But following this visit from Alabama, he has set an official visit to Alabama. So that's something Miami's going to have to withstand. I've not heard, leading up to this, a lot of concern about Javion Mallory, right? As far as like, this is somebody that we're worried about wavering or that, we would drop or anything like that. That's not the case, at all. So I think this is a situation where you have a good player and a program like Alabama wants to, they got pretty good running backs in their mix. So if they come down to West Boca to get a running back, you got to feel pretty good about the player you're getting. And look, we've lost battles to Alabama. When you talk about Kevin Riley on their home turf, they're in Tuscaloosa. We've won battles. They were guys who liked Fletcher. They like Lyle. They like guys like that. I think Pringle, Alabama was in the mix for him as well. So, this is big boy recruiting. You want your commits to rise in value. You don't want your recruits to drop in value where you say, man, did we get the wrong guy? And here you see, by the way, this is Mallory playing injured, and you still see just a natural running back movements. I know we made the comparison, not in terms of like quality, because this was one of the best players I've ever seen come out of high school ever, on top of being a Hall of Famer, but just in terms of like the style of running, more your Frank Gore style runner, where he's not going to set a track meet on fire, although he's not slow, but he's definitely going to run with natural lean, quickness, true running back, and a similar kind of size, probably a similar speed on the stopwatch is my guess. So love this guy. I think this guy's been underrated as a low 4-star, maybe not by the services, but by the fans. But big time schools want this kid. As he gets healthy this year, I think he's going to have a monster senior year, and he's going to be a very, very big piece of the class. Again, I'm not worried here. You never love when your commits take visits, but I think this is just part of recruiting great players. The Duke Johnson that just says, I'm not visiting anywhere, that's a rare bird from my experience.
Outside of obviously Cooper and then Mallory, who we've been talking about here, I know they've been recruiting, or they had earlier in the cycle, a bunch of other backs. I mean, is there anyone else to keep an eye on as a third back if you do get Cooper to hop on board here, or even kind of as just another backup plan, so to speak, for Mallory if things go the other way?
Jay Lamar from Moultrie, Georgia, I believe is visiting. Let me just confirm. I believe he's visiting.
He's at FSU now, isn't he?
Yeah. So this is from Moultrie, Georgia, Colquitt County, top 10 running back in the country. I believe he's ranked number 8 on the composite. He visited unofficially. He's going to visit. He visited Clemson last week. Visited Georgia last week, I believe. Sorry, this. I'm looking at trying to see the visit list. It's all.
Yeah, he's at Florida State right now, or he just finished up his Florida State visit. He's from NICAR school, right?
Okay, here I got it here. Sorry, I was looking at a messed up list. So he visited Clemson. He visited Auburn the 16th. Visited Clemson the 30th. Visited Florida State last week. Visits Miami this week, and then Georgia, which is the favorite, on June 20th. He commits 5 days after that. So you're looking at basically some powerhouses in the region. As a top 10 player in the country, Jay Lamar. With Miami, he visited unofficially in the spring. So you start there as far as the ties to this player. Always look at the unofficial visits when these out-of-state guys. That shows it real interest. Number 2, Colquitt County, not a big place, right? He has ties, family ties, friendship ties. He calls them his cousins. Being Cuban, we have a million cousins. So I don't know if these are blood cousins or just people you call your cousins because you grew up with them. But he says he's cousins with NICAR. Says he's cousins with Kamal Bonner, the linebacker from NC State that just transferred to Miami this spring. So there's ties here with Jay Lamar, and Miami's been recruiting him. There was never any intention of pushing out a Mallory at all. But this is why you recruit a lot of players, because other players.
And we've talked about it. We talked about before there was a chance that they could take 3, like early in the cycle.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to recruit and see where it goes. It's about getting players that are over the line of what you need, right? Guys, you want guys coming on campus that are of the caliber of player that you think you should be after. Now, Alabama's got their own guys. Xavier Crowell is top 5 back in the country out of Jackson, Alabama. You can see that being a major fit for the Crimson Tide. He visits there in a couple weeks. Also visited Florida State and Auburn. So kind of a similar visit list for Xavier Crowell to Jay Lamar, but that's an Alabama target that you could see being in the mix. Savion Hyder, who to me is he's number 1 ranked running back, so it's not a secret there, but this guy's super elite. I don't know if he has an Alabama visit set. I know they were trying to recruit him. So it's Alabama. I mean, they're going to recruit a lot of running backs. They're going to take a lot of running backs. They're going to have a good pitch when it comes to running backs. But I think, Javion Mallory is their type of guy because of his size, because of his toughness, because of his just plug and play ability. Obviously, I know this goes back to a different coaching staff, but they've always loved South Florida players between Calvin Ridley, Amari Cooper, you name it. So we'll see. I feel pretty good about where Miami's with Javion Mallory, and I think Miami would love to keep Javion Mallory. This is not like a drop situation or a cooling situation, at least as far as I know. If that changes, I'll let you know in the bank. But I've always heard Miami wanted this guy, and when I watch him in person and seeing his highlights and seeing his production and learning about the kid, I think he's a major, major priority, or should be, to be part of this class, to pair with a Derek Cooper.
Definitely. No, listen, I mean, look, I think just with the nature of the position as well. Mark Fletcher, we'll see the sort of season he has. Obviously he's a certain type of back and he's had some injuries already. So if he has a really good year, he could be gone after this season. Obviously you expect Lyle to take that next step, but they need at least two in this class.
Yeah, I think so. Jared Pringle being a smaller type of back, Chris Wheatley-Humphrey being a smaller type of back. Oh, we got breaking news here. Breaking news, which I've been sitting on. We got Pete, let me pull it up here. Let's see. We got Miami Hurricanes baseball has their middle infielder of the future with Vance Sheehan. I've been sitting on this info. Now we can announce it officially. Let me just pull it up here. This is great news for the Canes. If you're a Canes baseball guy, there you go. Vance Sheehan, USC Upstate, a team that was in the tournament this year. This is a big time get for the Miami Hurricanes. Just some stats on him as I pull up the numbers. But this is somebody who Miami targeted aggressively. You don't know what's going to happen with Jake Ogden, your star shortstop, who is going to have an MLB draft decision coming up here and have a chance to go pro. So you don't want to wait for that. The draft's obviously in a month, so you got plenty of time in the portal before then. This dude is from Palm Beach. He knows Griffin Hughes. Freshman of the year at USC Upstate last year as a freshman. Batted .333, OPS of 827, 2 homers and 6 stolen bases. That was as a freshman. Exploded this past year for a USC Upstate, which again made the tournament. 12 home runs, 25 steals, 328 at the plate, OPS of 921. And again, a middle infield profile, can play shortstop, can play second, can also play third. So this was a huge get. I'm fired up about this one. Shout out to the staff. You already have Braylon West and Sean Copeland in the portal, 2 big first basemen. Copeland can also play third. Of course, you have Daniel Cuvée. So you've added size on the corners, which if anyone watched Canes baseball this year, a lot of questions why, hey man, why are we so small, at first base and positions like that, DH. We've added some big size. Now it's about that skill in the middle of the defense. You got to add a catcher. We'll see what happens in center field. Mikey Torres, great fit, close to the year, but this guy is a major league stud. And
did you mention that he had a 47 game reach base streak this season?
No, that's why we have you, Pete, for the college baseball insight.
The college hardball is my passion. It's become. Let me tell you something. It's become a big passion of mine the last couple of weeks here.
I love it, man.
It's a different sport, man. They throw those pitchers are throwing meatballs all day. It's great. Not yesterday, but it's entertaining for sure.
Yeah, with the bats and now that you have so many stud players like draft wise, I think that's huge for the sport. Just have more talent on the field. I love college. To me, college baseball, at least for my personal viewing, is more entertaining than college basketball right now. Kind of like the way MLB to me has passed NBA in a lot of ways. Obviously, CJ Lamar is going to change things. I think he's bringing the excitement back. Can't wait to watch your boy, the Turkish delight, and the we don't do a nickname for the Slovakian.
No, we don't. Is he Slovakian or Slovenian? I always forget. It's Slovakian. Let me tell you something. You got some people excited with that breaking news thing. I'm getting texts that they thought it was football related. So I might have to make that one up. Even though I've done the same thing I've done it times 10 for basketball.
Listen, man, Miami's not Miami if Canes baseball is not a power. And I think you saw overachieving this year. You saw a fun, extremely scrappy team that won a regional, which hasn't been done since 2016. But now you need to have a team that doesn't necessarily have to overachieve because they have studs all over the place. And I think Vance Sheehan is a huge step in the direction. You beat Clemson for this one. You beat North Carolina. I don't know if that was been reported, but those were the other schools in the mix for Sheehan. This was done over the weekend when Miami was pretty busy, taking care of business, playing up there in Louisville. So news is out, and I'm been fired up about this one. Been waiting to kind of sitting on it, hoping it became official. So let's go. Big commitment.
But you got to think that this run helps land a kid like that, though.
100%. I mean, this is a premium dude. This is not like a sleeper, right? This is a guy that everybody knew he was a stud for a tournament team. Everybody knew he was kind of ready for that call up to the big leagues, not the major league big leagues, but the college baseball big leagues. And Miami's able to win over some major powers. So fire it up, man. Fire it up. Recruiting's picking up in every sport. Philly Kane, Peter D-Money, finally catching you guys live. Keeping fingers crossed, good news starts to roll with commit soon. I think we will get some commit soon. Like I said, I'm going to dig in. I'll probably do a bank story maybe this afternoon. I'll make some calls here right when I get off this show. I like to let it sit for a second, let some meetings take place because, there's a lot of times the way this works is you have the meeting, the visits, you have the highs on the player side, you have maybe certain feelings on the coaching side. Then when everybody gets together and kind of compares notes, it's, hey, circle this one, scratch this one out. So I want to make sure I get the scoop here. After the dust settles a little bit, I'll probably do a bank update for on CanesInsight.com. 7.4 million post and counting pretty soon.
D, I wanted to get to this comment. A couple comments here. Whiskey says, I'd like to see more D-line recruiting. Heart of Sports says, you're not lying. They're not swinging enough for me at D-line. Listen, I know we want to see them land the guy, get these guys committed, but they had a couple 5-stars on campus this weekend on the defensive line, and then the week before, same thing. So they've landed the most defensive, 5-star defensive linemen in the last couple cycles, right? D. David Lake had that story about a month or so ago on Inside the U, and you're in the mix for multiple 5-stars in this class right now. So I think with D-line recruiting, I want to see more size. That's what I want to see. It's more so the size and the highly recruited guys for me, which normally they go hand in hand, but I think that's what you're looking for when you talk about the D-line recruiting.
Yeah, look, pull up the Canes connection because when we're talking about defensive line recruiting, I'll tell you what it boils down to: money. That's been the truth since way before NIL. When Alabama was going on probation every year, before Nick Saban's friend became the head of the NCAA, and Alabama suddenly started winning more and committing less recruiting violations. Interesting how that worked out. It's always been about money with the defensive line. So scarce. It is a hard position to find. There aren't that many guys with the body type, so you got to pay them. So be part of the solution. Join CanesConnection.com/CIS. Make sure you get that /CIS. Get access to private Zoom chats with myself, where I give you the breaking news or just the inside scoop I can't give you in a public forum because I'm worried about Gators or Knowles and whoever else taking it. CanesConnection.com/CIS. All kinds of benefits, private events with players, and just really the feeling of being part of the solution, being part of the reason why we're getting better on the field, being part of the reason why Cam Ward's throwing touchdowns, being part of the reason why Justin Scott and Marquise Lightfoot getting sacks here this fall. Be part of it. Join CanesConnection.com. Make sure you get that /CIS so you get all those extra benefits as far as private Zooms, etc. And again, appreciate everybody who is part of the solution. If you're not, come aboard, man. CanesConnection.com. We need you. We need you. We got people on board. We need more. We need you. That's what this is about. So CanesConnection.com/CIS. So yeah, defensive line recruiting. Look, names on just big names, not even just the guys we're after, just the biggest kind of marquee names. Anthony Jones, a 5-star player, visited last week. Miami Auburn battle. You feel good there. I think we talked about that one ad nauseum. I think we got a great chance with that one. A guy that we don't talk about a lot. Make sure I pronounce the name right because I screw it up every single time. But Jaquez Wilkes, who I believe is visiting this week coming up from Wadley, Alabama, out there in the sticks. He's visiting actually the 20th out of Wadley, Alabama. Guy visited in the spring. Jason Taylor's visited him in person. Major stud, top 100 player. That's a defensive end. Bryce Perry-Wright, who's like that Ruben Bain, Akeem Messidor, moving around all over the place. Defensive lineman visited this past weekend, also visited in spring. Lamar Brown visited last week. Best defensive lineman in the country, one of the best overall players in the country. These are pretty good names. James Johnson, had a good visit here from Fort Myers, now Miami Northwestern. Miami battling teams like Georgia for this player. On3's got him as the number one defensive tackle. So, I mean, these are the guys visiting. These are pretty big names. You got to land them, but defensive linemen, they don't come off the board that easy. You got to scratch, claw. Think about Justice Scott. Think about Lightfoot. I think those guys were all kind of in the middle of – I think Life was in the middle of summer. Scott was in the middle of summer. Then you flipped him during the season. Armando Blunt, you flipped at the end. Hayden Lowe, you flipped at the end. So these defensive linemen, they're battles, man, and you just gotta keep on grinding.
Well, and look, Heart of Sports, he says, I agree, Pete. I like the guys we're going after. They're all top tier. Lamar, James, right? But what happens when you strike out on all of them and they all have many seasons? You're not going to land all of these guys, right? You're. I don't think you strike out on all of them. I think you do land one of these guys that were mentioned here, maybe two in a dream scenario, but. You said, what do you do when you strike out on those guys? Last week, you had guys like Freddie Wilson, Tyson Bacon visiting that are projectable players that I think that are kind of in that. Listen, they might take those guys right now, but there are other names out there that they're recruiting that may not be as nationally known as these 5 stars.
100%. We talked about guys like Freddie Wilson, who I think is going to be a solid depth piece if we go in that direction, who visited this past weekend, which I think, again, we should take numbers at some of these spots so we're not going to the portal for depth. Daniel Norman, a potential developmental guy from St. Thomas who's still getting better, could have a huge senior year. Those are just some of the names. I think we're going to take, Keyshawn Stansell's a 4-star player. Miami's in good shape with. He has a lot of visits coming up. Schools like Clemson, et cetera, Tennessee. But Miami's in a good place there. Tyson Bacon, they're battling. Miami's in the mix for a lot of defensive linemen, man. And these are guys, here's the key. Allow me to repeat this because I think this is very important. These are guys that visited in spring and are making return visits for officials. You're not going to get all those guys. But when you have multiple visits, usually you have a pretty good chance. So I think we're in good shape at defensive line, but you got to get them in the boat, right? Right now, it's just speculation. But I feel good about the guys that are finding their way on campus.
We mention this pretty much after every OV weekend as people are asking for the commits, but it's a good comment here by C. Marquise Smith. Says this isn't 2012, recruiting's changed. Big time recruits aren't committing on official visits or right after, at least not publicly. It's about leverage and it's smart business. Got to practice patience and trust Coach Mario Cristobal. 100%, man. These guys, although, because before, man, you could be coming off that high of the visit, just get that gut feeling and say, this is where I want to go. This is the staff I have the best relationship with. This is the best fit for me. I love the campus. I love everything that's going on. And guys can still get that feeling, but you still have to then go back to the table and say, okay, this is the opportunities in front of me from a financial standpoint, from an NIL standpoint. This is what I feel about the school. There's a lot of things that come into play now where it's very, as you said in this comment, it's not the smart business move to just commit right after the visit. So
yeah, but like I said, I feel there's enough defensive linemen that have visited twice or more times that had good official visits that I feel good. Now look, you're battling Texas A&M on half these kids. You're battling, Georgia on half these kids, right? You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. Texas, same thing. It's just it's a matter of they're not going to sign everybody. They're not going to win every battle. And in the battles they do win, that takes up some spot, that takes up some money. So, they're fighting their own battles for other kids that we're not after. So it's about being in the mix for a lot of these top names. And then I think we'll get some of them.
Rob says fan base getting spoiled on what we expect to land, and I'm here for it. Listen, before the fan base would get excited about, the occasional 5-star that would visit, right? You're getting them on campus so consistently now that it's like, yes, as we just said, you're not going to land all of them. You're not going to land 50% of them. You land one here, you land one there, and you look back on it a couple of years down the line, you say, yeah, you've landed the most blue chip prospects on the defensive line now in the last 3 seasons, because you can't land them all in 1 year, but you land 1 this year, 2 next year, 1 the year after, and they start stacking up. And then you look at your roster and say, we got 5 or 6 of these guys now. So,
yeah, look, and I'm not worried about, to your point, Pete, I'm not worried about getting these guys. I really think we're going to get some good ones, highly recruited ones. I'm worried about the guys that we have, meaning Justin Scott, Marquise Lightfoot, Armando Blunt, Hayden Lowe, and top of Ruben Bain, and guys
and
like
Mesidor.
that. Right. I'm worried about those guys developing into day 1, early day 2 players, right?
Right.
I think the key to Miami from where we are now, which is a good team, we're a relevant team. This is not, Manny Diaz, late Mark Richt, golden Shannon era. I mean, this is a good, respected team with NFL talent that's projected to be a real team next year. To get from there to elite, you need Ruben Bain to be a first-round pick like he's projected to be, on top of being a dominant college player. You need Armando Blunt with his power, with his size, with his athletic ability, his IQ, his youth, to really develop into a dude, right, that we see in mock drafts. He has all those traits. Hayden Lowe, P, we saw him in person. The guy is, he is an absolutely enormous defensive end who's also twitchy and explosive and plays very hard and physical, on top of being really, really smart, just like Blunt. Those are 2 really, really smart guys, like high-end IQ guys. We need that to become, we need him to become a first, second round pick. That's what 5 stars are supposed to do. We need Justin Scott to be that guy starting this year, right? Where the next year he goes in there as a projected first round pick. We need Marquise Lightfoot to show you that pass rush impact. He had a great spring. Let these guys turn into that, and this is going to be an elite team going forward. On top of the, and then recruiting wise, I'm not that worried.
Speaking of recruiting, something we have not touched on is Jordan Campbell. And you may have talked about it yesterday on your live show. Jordan Campbell shutting down recruiting. Did you bring up the Alonzo Highsmith tweet?
No, great call, P. I pull up this tweet. So while you're pulling this up, Campbell, love this dude, love the fit with Heatherman. Heatherman likes length, he likes athleticism, he likes pass rush. This guy's got all 3. Seeing him in person, and I've seen this guy in camps. We interviewed him, I think, last year when he was still a 10th grader, which is when Highsmith saw him for this tweet, which we're about to go read. But just talking to him and seeing how big he's gotten, this guy looks the way you want it to look. He acts the way you want your linebackers to act. I got a very good impression of him in person yesterday, as far as like, yeah, I can see this guy playing right away.
So here's the tweet from Alonzo Highsmith. He said, 2 kids stick out to me in my time at Miami. Jordan Campbell as a 10th grader, watching him in 7-on-7, and OJ Frederick, and could go into each one, but it always boils down to athletic traits, size, speed. And here's the interesting part to me, Deed. And do they make plays before the stars? So obviously it's easy to look at a guy and say, well, he's big, fast, and he can run. But is he just pretty looking, or is he actually going out there and making plays on the football, doing things that you said, this is a real player. This isn't just someone who is caught up in the rankings or has been given one of these early sort of crownings.
Yep. I agree. Look, it sounds simple, but I see so many people get caught up in, one thing I really don't like in that, and this goes for really in college, but NFL even a little bit too. People get too caught up on technique, in my opinion, in high school. Like, why do we pay these coaches so much money if technique's that important when you're evaluating a kid? Just little details like that. Like, I think there's a lot of overthinking that goes on in evaluation. And again, what Highsmith says sounds simple, but so many times you see people worry about, hey, does he fit better here? Does he fit better there? Is he a tweener? I don't like how he uses his hands. That's why you coach him. To me, it's yes, it's traits, it's instincts, which I put in the playmaking category. And then also, are these guys good off the field? At least good from a football standpoint off the field. They don't need to be saints, but are they guys that you could work? You don't have to worry about them showing up to practice and playing hard, right? You don't have to worry about them not working when it's time to work. If they have all those boxes checked, figure out the stuff later. Don't get caught up in details about this and that. I mean, you definitely see this at the quarterback position, and I've been strong on this, is that so many people care about like quarterback fundamentals, and all you get is an overtrained kid with limited ceiling, right? That's what Jake Garcia, that was the Jake Garcia problem. That was a million guys like that who are young superstars, but then they don't develop or they don't have that much upside. Whereas Josh Allen, everybody's like, oh, is he accurate enough? Does he do this? Is his footwork good enough? Blah, blah, blah. And then all the guy becomes is one of the best players in the world. Lamar Jackson, you go down the line, Pat Mahomes. Traits and between the years. Figure out the rest later. Don't overthink it. Traits are easy to see. And if you do enough homework, you'll know the makeup. How does he practice? How does he compete? Hey, maybe he's raw because he does other sports or whatever, but he's always playing, he's doing something. These are the kind of things that, to me, if you simplify the evaluation process, like with Jordan Campbell, let's use him as an example because we're talking about him. Pull up his tape, Pete, if we can. I know we talked about him yesterday. But with Jordan Campbell, this is a guy who has played on the edge. He's played deep at times, almost like a DB. And then he's played traditional linebacker, which we saw him play at the Under Armour game. I've heard people question, hey, is he an edge going forward? Is he a linebacker? Is he going to be able to find a spot? This is a guy who has the size that you want. He has the speed you want. He's physical. And then he seems like he's wired the right way. And then if you go by the Highsmith tweet, which you got on, this guy makes plays. He caught Highsmith's eye, obviously, but everywhere this guy is.
Hold on, D. First play of the highlight.
What happened?
I don't know. Let's see what school he's playing against.
Oh, there you go. The league competition here. Great run here by Milet Jesuit. Tremendously executed. Getting a little out-athleted here, but it was a good game. But there you go. I mean, how many times do you see the other team make a good play on your highlight reel? That's Milet Jesuit for you. But yeah, I mean, obviously this guy's speed's ridiculous. You see him outside. You see him coming off the edge. I don't think this is a guy like back in the day when Miami was getting a lot of edge guys that just didn't translate to linebacker. This is a guy I've seen play everywhere, so I don't think it's going to be that part of the transition. But even if it is, just get the guys with the size and speed, man. Let Heatherman coach him up. I can tell you Heatherman's approach is he wants linebackers with size, length, speed, and that have pass rush ability. He says, he can train them in his defense. Obviously, you want instincts and play. And
He's flying.
I saw this guy in the Under Armour.
We saw him at a camp. We saw him at the camp last spring. Yeah.
You interviewed him.
Yeah.
He can play linebacker. It's not like this guy's not played linebacker. He played linebacker at the Under Armour game. He was making tackles. He had a huge goal line stand where he was going sideline to sideline. I think he's rated as like 100. Let's see what his latest rating is, but he was, in that top 100 mix, maybe just outside the top 100 for most of the cycle. So this guy's a stud, man. Here we go. Looking at him in the open field. It's not like a tightly wound guy that you say is just a go and get a pass rush. You're looking at him break down, make the tackle. To me, this is a big time player and someone who's going to lead the charge. The only negative I would say with Campbell is he's been in a million schools, but I don't think it's a situation where he's getting like kicked out, or things.
How many guys are in that same spot these days?
Yeah. And look, Lagoon makes a good point here. He says, how many times have we recruited linebackers that rush the passer in high school and don't really become effective linebackers? Look, that's true. That was an issue. Now, I think Heatherman, again, doesn't run from that. And then I think if you look at some of those guys, like a Mike Smith, he ran like a 5 flat and ended up actually being a good backup linebacker for us on really top defenses. He was the number 1 backup linebacker when we had those elite defenses under Manny Diaz, top 10 defenses. So he
had a big game against North Carolina that one year on a Thursday night game.
Yeah, he ended up being a pretty good player. And also, he had injuries and he just wasn't as athletic as Campbell. I think, Sam Brooks is probably a big example, but again, major injury that he never recovered from. DeAndre Wilder, he hurt his neck, right? So he couldn't play. Plus, DeAndre Wilder, I think, weighed like 195 pounds coming out of high school. I mean,
He was
Campbell's
a
a
track guy.
big dude. Malik Bryant, that's a good one. He just was a natural edge, but he's playing for us at edge. So it's not like he was a bad take. If Campbell ends up as an edge, playing boundary defensive end, that's what happens. Tyreek McCord, same thing. He played end. So, maybe he doesn't transition to linebacker, but some of those guys end up being good players for us. They just were a different position. I think Sam Brooks and is a big one that just had had issues with injury. McLeod, yeah, that could be a comp. McLeod did end up playing. I think he almost made the Vikings as an edge rusher. That's a pretty good comp.
McLeod had an injury that messed him up, man. McLeod had a wrist injury here, wrist injury that really, really messed him up. It took away his ability to grab, really. And that I would say that messed up his career more than anything else.
Yeah, and then Avery Huff. I believe Avery Huff was more of like a safety and a receiver early in his career. Definitely more of a receiver. He played linebacker. I don't think Huff was one of those edge guys going back. And again, just weight problems, not the I don't know. I think Campbell, I can tell you this, Campbell from a ranking standpoint is high up. So it's not like this is some project that we're just talking about. This is a guy that's rated really high. And I think he's shown enough at linebacker that I feel great about his projection. 1,200 on, by the way. Like and subscribe to this show, man. Appreciate everybody supporting. Pete, this one's for you. I know this one gets your heart warm here. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it was nice, man. Good win for Portugal over Spain. And Ronaldo, man, another trophy to the legacy of his career. Beautiful times. Are you
a Ronaldo guy or Messi guy? How's that even work?
I mean, it works. You choose one side normally. I'm not a Messi. I don't go to the lengths of our good friend Chase Rowe, who's a frequent viewer of this show, to tarnish the legacy of Messi. But yeah, man, something about the way that Ronaldo carries himself, just prefer that.
So we're going to get to the Carson Beck news here. I want to share my screen, talk about the Miami Hurricane team store. Father's Day coming up next week, right? I got to get my dad something. Maybe I get him the Father's Day package. Hope he's not listening and gets spoiled. $75. You get 2 tickets to Canes football game, and you pick 2 hats. Bethune, USF, Louisville. I like that U hat. That's a cool hat right there. Those are both cool hats for growing up. Those are like grown up hats. Those are hats you could wear to like a kid's party or something. So shout out to Hurricane Team Store, MiamiHTS.com. You can get some of this stuff. And then you go right through MiamiHurricanes.com/Father's Day. That is, let me just pull up the exact link. MiamiHurricanes.com/Father's Day. MiamiHurricanes.com/Father's Day for that package. And I believe those hats are available also at the Miami Hurricane Team Store, MiamiHTS.com. 20% off when you use promo code INSIGHT20. So whatever you need for Father's Day, man, just go straight to the source. Get it through the Canes. Add some money to the revenue sharing pool that we're going to be used to be paying players with this house settlement, along with Canes Connection, which ain't going anywhere. Here we go. Jeffrey English saying, I hope the Canes steal Feely from Texas A&M. He created monsters in the weight room. Jay Phillips and Greg Rousseau, Pam, whatever. So this is Feely, you talk about from Manny Diaz. I didn't know he's at Texas A&M now. He's been moving up, man. This is the old coach that Manny Diaz brought in with Duke. I guess now he's at Texas A&M. I think the problem with Feely is Mario basically fired him to bring in Feld. So I don't know if you can go back to that well. But he's clearly.
I didn't realize it. The last thing I see here is that, interesting. It looks like Elko was trying to get him over there, but he didn't end up joining him. It says, I don't know.
So he said, Johnny Laguna said he's still at Duke. Either way, I think that's probably not going to happen based on, the way it ended. But Mario's going to find somebody. I mean,
listen, it's such you said the opinions people nitpick so much. I remember people saying that it was Feely's fault that all the neck injuries were happening at Miami, which, there's always going to be someone nitpicking something with the strengthening and conditioning coach. So
I will say though, and I don't know who this falls on. I will say, and
there was a crazy amount of neck injuries.
Not just that, but when Mario got to Miami, it's 2022 spring. I remember our entire team was out for the spring with like shoulder injuries, like labrums and stuff, cleanups, whatever. We were missing literally like I want to say like a dozen guys with the same injury. James Williams, I remember, was one. I think Leonard Taylor was another. We had like half the team out with labrums. So something was up there, because I don't believe we've had too many of those injury sets.
Those over the head lifts, man.
I guess all those tackling, those WWE tackling drill sessions with the dummies.
Sheesh. I don't know. They might have been doing some of that last year too in practice.
Yeah, seriously. All right, let's get to it. Some news I want to talk about, which is Carson Beck. People always ask, how's he doing? And then we reported that he's throwing, right? He's throwing fine. There's no issue injury-wise. He's back. Now the next step is I want to see kind of the buzz of people saying like, hey, man, this guy's pretty awesome. I was waiting to hear that. Starting to get it, right? Spoke to a pretty prominent player on the offense, and he was just like, man, this dude, Carson Beck, is really, really throwing the ball well. He is extremely talented. He throws with zip. He throws with touch, accurate. People are just fired up about Beck based on what he has shown. And it's not just, hey, this guy's healthy. It's, hey, this guy is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and he could really throw the ball. These are guys that saw Cam Ward, so they've seen the absolute best of the best of the best, and they're still impressed with Beck. So I think that's a very positive sign, and really that's the story of the season here right now is can Beck be that top quarterback in the ACC? Can he be better than Cade Klubnik? Can he be that guy and kind of start that new quarterback U legacy that really not start Cam Ward would have started it, but continue that quarterback U legacy where, yeah, you lose a great player, then you're replaced with another great player, right? As opposed to we got this one generational guy and it's back to the dark ages of Kyle Wright, Kirby Freeman, etc. I don't think we're there. I think based on what I'm hearing from Carson Beck, he's really, really impressing guys and looking like, a first round talent throwing the football.
Yeah, I've heard, a lot of the similar stuff. Unfortunately, since he wasn't here during spring, that relationship with the receivers and the other guys on the team is starting now. So behind the 8 ball there a bit, but if he's healthy, then I'm not concerned about that sort of relationship with these guys, because that should be, handled or pretty close to not handled, but they should be on the same page by the time camp comes around. You got 2 months here now. So
yeah, let's back to recruiting, because I wanted to go through some of these. Let's look at some of the visit pictures here. The photo shoots are back. I like him as a fan, really more as a website owner, because people care about him. So it's easy to post about. But there you see Jackson Cantwell, the two JCs, Jackson Cantwell and Jordan Campbell, who we were talking about earlier. Jordan Campbell, man, he really does look the part. Long arms, all that. Cantwell, obviously a monster. They took a picture together on Friday. Jackson Cantwell was wearing a diamond-studded JC chain. I wasn't sure if that's Campbell's chain and let him borrow it, Jordan Campbell, or that was Cantwell's chain himself. But the JCs have been taking a lot of pictures together. They seem to have developed a pretty good relationship, which is cool to see. A guy from South Florida, guy from Nixa, Missouri, kind of bonding. And they always, even going back to the Under Armour game, those guys were always taking pictures, talking about UM. Here you got Bryce Perry Wright. This is like a very popular picture where they all kind of pose and with the families and stuff. You see Bryce Perry Wright's people up here, and of course the whole staff flexing, doing their thing. But that's a good sign. Seeing Bryce Perry Wright posting video or pictures from his visit, and yeah, man. Overall, I just think it was a very positive weekend. Here, look at this one right here. Just to get a feel for how Miami visits are different. And this is something we couldn't do for a while. I don't know what changed compliance-wise, but obviously something has changed, because look at this right here. You're able to take the recruits on the boat. There you got, this is Tyson Bacon's coach, I believe, maybe a mentor as well with Mario Cristobal. And there you see Tyson Bacon with his coach. Look at the background, downtown Miami. How do you compete with this if you're Tennessee or whoever, man? I just don't see how you can. It's just unbelievable opportunity here in Miami to showcase a world-class city that no one else in college football can match. You can take them to Watts, have at it. I'm taking Coral Gables in Miami every single time. Jaden Hewitt saying, I think we'll be blessed going forward too. Just talk about the quarterback position. Nickel could be good. Coleman could be great. Anima and Lawrence may be the one, though. That's the quarterback from Miami Northwestern, formerly at Ransom, class of 2028. I heard he might be trying to reclassify to 27, which would make him the top quarterback for Miami in 27 as far as a target. We'll see on that. I mean, again, Miami doesn't get involved really in that side of things because you don't want to be taking people's players and reclassifying them just so they can get on your campus earlier. It's not very good. There's an easy way to get high school coaches to hate you, and Miami's not trying to do that, but they kind of sit back and, hey, if they reclass, we'll put them in that class and recruit them. So we'll see on Neiman Lawrence, but people are fired up about that. Over 1,350 people on live. Like and subscribe to this show. Appreciate you. Drago saying a riverboat. Yeah, you can take one of those old school 1800s Mark Twain riverboats through Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama. Hop on, listen to some Stephen Foster songs and ride down the river 1800 style in some of those places, as opposed to being on the boat in Miami, Florida. Vaughn saying they compete because some kids want a small college town experience. I mean, I agree with that. That's why I always kind of get back to demographics, I believe, are very important when it comes to recruiting. So it's about, Maro's shown the ability to get some of these SEC country kids. I mean, Jaquez Wilkes, we'll see if we can get him. I heard he's from the Sticks in Alabama. You've landed some. But I really think ultimately your best success is going to be in the city. When you go to Alabama, Mobile, Alabama, you've been there, Pete. I know it's your home away from home. That is a city. Anthony Jones this year, Coleman Conathy last year, Bobby Pruitt, guys that we got from Mobile, Alabama, played this year. Brett Collier is a guy that
even Birmingham area that they've been active around there. Birmingham's not a small town.
Yeah. No, Birmingham's a city, and that's a place to go. Like a Brett Collier or Collier. I'm sorry, they corrected our pronunciation. They still screw it up this weekend. I talked to the parents. Brett Collier. Those are city people, right? So you always worry about like a Georgia visit with a kid like him, but he's a city person. Even Jackson Cantwell, Nixon, Missouri, I was shocked we got him all the way over here. But at the end of the day, Nixon, Missouri is Springfield, Missouri. It's Southwest. It's a decently big area. The parents were Olympians. They've been around the world, so a big, you got to look at demographics when you talk about kids that I think make sense for Miami. Obviously, you want players from the country because those are great players. They've won a lot of championships, but not always going to be the easiest to get for the reasons that were said. Jaden Hewitt saying Knoxville blows away 90% of the SEC for scenery. It doesn't even touch Miami. Actually, I love Knoxville. That's a very popular destination for Miami people, is to go to like Gatlinburg, up to the Smoky Mountains. It's like, I remember every time when I go up there, you see like Cuban flags and like Bate Vida, like different like Cuban slogans on the cars, just because it's like a big Cuban Miami vacation spot up there in Knoxville. But always you come back down to Miami. Frank Myers wants to know what are our chances with Derek Cooper. Very good, I think. I think we're the favorite coming out of that visit. Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, all in the mix for Derek Cooper. He's one of the best players in the country, but I think Miami's prioritized him in a major way. I think had momentum going into last week's visit. They had a great visit last weekend. They're going to use him in a lot of different ways. I feel good about Derek Cooper. So that's Johnny Lagoon says, best thing about Oregon versus us is that Oregon's in the Pacific Northwest. Not a lot of Southern guys want to go up to that dreary place. I mean, yeah, I love the Pacific Northwest. Go there all the time, family from there. But yeah, that's a bigger culture shock than going from the country to Miami, because it really is different up there. And Eugene's not the best part of Oregon. Around it, there's some great stuff, Mackenzie Bridge area, but like Eugene's actually not the nicest city in the world. Eugene's, almost slummy in some parts. You don't think that about Oregon, but Eugene's really not great, like in terms of Oregon. So yeah, that's something that you're always battling when you talk about the Oregon Ducks and some of the things they have to deal with, that we don't have to worry about that. So I got Pete.
Man.
Wants to know, what do you think about Portugal's win yesterday versus Spain and the new chosen one?
The new chosen one. He's talking about Lamine Yamal. I think he needs to hit the weight room.
Is he Spanish?
He's Moroccan. He plays for the Spanish national team.
Ethiopian. Man, these soccer comments get going, man.
Join the Discord. Join the Discord. I tweeted it out.
There you go. Promote it. Let's go. What is it?
I tweeted it out last night. Go to my Twitter page. Join the Discord. Join the conversation. We got a big one now. North Macedonia, Kazakhstan, just starting right now. Should be a good one, man.
Yeah, Morocco. I mean, there's a lot of Moroccans. Spain has Moroccan blood because it's right next to it, right? So I know my family descends, I believe, from the Berbers of North Africa who went to the Canary Islands. So there's a lot of North Africans in Spain. Of course, you had the period of occupation or whatever you want to call it for many, many years from the Moors. So the Moors in Spain they're closer ties there than you think, Pete. It goes back.
I know. Trust me. I'll be in Spain in 11 days. So looking forward to that.
Oh yeah. Where are you going?
I'm going to Madrid, Barcelona, Sevilla, and then we will be making a day trip up to the Basque country, San Sebastian.
Yeah, the homeland of Daniel Couvet's parents.
That's where my family's from.
There you go, man. What a globetrotter! You were in Spain last summer.
I was in Italy last summer.
Sorry, Italy last summer. Yeah,
Brazil a couple years ago. So making our way around.
All right. So Brandon wants to know, D, will baseball have a good portal year? So listen, off to a really, really good start. I think, again, you talked about Sean Copeland, a lefty first baseman from Miami-Dade, who a lot of people think is one of the best hitters in the country at the JUCO level. Big upside there, 6'4", twitchy. He could be a prospect type guy. First base and third. Obviously, you have Couvet at third, but you have first open, you have DH open, and guys get hurt. Braylon West, the first baser for FIU. This is a guy who's almost had the same amount of strikeouts as walks as a 6'4", 230-pounder. So great patience. He batted leadoff, actually, for FIU. Still hit 12 bombs, only had 29 RBIs because he was in that leadoff spot because his on-base was so good. He's going to be a very, very, very good addition. We need that size and physicality on the corners. We just haven't had it aside from Couvet. Needed big time. I think those are two huge need additions. And then today, really over the weekend, but officially announced today, Shahan. I've been saying Sheehan. It's actually Shahan. Vance Shahan out of USC Upstate. Middle infielder. Can also play third. Kind of like an Ogden profile. Super talented righty. 25 steals, 12 bombs. Hit like crazy. Freshman of the year last year in the conference. MVP of the team this year as a tournament team. He's going to be a major, major addition to the Hurricanes. He beat out Clemson, North Carolina. So those are two really huge additions. Now it's about, on top of just retaining guys, and more so like versus the draft than the portal. I think we're going to be good on the portal side for the most part. Now it's about finding pitchers, finding a catcher with Tanner Smith on the way out, and some more. But I think this portal is going to be a huge, huge, huge success for the Canes because now you have a product to sell. Last year, you were selling a dream because you had a horrible year. Now you're saying at first year, you didn't have the portal because JD came in so late. So he didn't even have a chance at the portal first year. Second year, again, the bad season, partly because you didn't have the portal the year before. Now this year, you have the success. You're like a run away from Omaha, 2 runs away from Omaha, and this could be the difference if you're that player. So easier sell. I think it's going to be a huge, huge portal season for the Miami Hurricanes. Canes Cat Heat 305 say this guy hit 3 home runs in his conference title game. Yeah, he's a monster, man. This is a big-time addition, and we're not done. But we are way, way ahead of schedule for Canes baseball, ahead of schedule for recruiting. Almost 1,400 on the live, man. Like and subscribe to the show. You get some soccer analysis from Pete as well. So, yeah, man, fired up about where the Miami Hurricanes are. All athletics, baseball, football, men's basketball. Frisch got the top 5 portal class for women's basketball. We got, Miami Golf's probably going to be the most popular. Miami, his team on campus here in a year as far as media attention. So a lot going on, man, there on the Coral Gables campus. We're fired up. Appreciate you, Johnny Lagoon. We're rolling. Detective Holmes asking what's going on with player-led practices. We did a little update here earlier, but story there. Carson Beck looking really, really good physically. By the way, also really athletic. I heard a story that he actually jumped in at running back, just kind of screwing around, having fun. And he was like juking people out, much more athletic than people think. He is a very, very big time athlete on top of the throwing ability. So all the news on Carson Beck is very positive.
All right. Appreciate everyone who joined us today. Remember to hit that like button subscribe to the channel. And we had great numbers today, man. So we'll hopefully have a lot more to talk about tomorrow. And again, stay tuned for the Bank D's update from the weekend. Did something yesterday if you haven't checked that out already, but getting to even more detail later this week. So that'll be coming sometime in the next few days.
Go Canes.
Go Canes.